We are moving past the era of isolated chatbots. The digital economy is currently transitioning into an ecosystem of autonomous AI swarms, persistent agents that trade resources, execute long-running tasks, and make independent decisions without human oversight. In this environment, traditional safety guardrails like prompt tuning or reinforcement learning fall short. These static alignment methods rely on predictable inputs and outputs. They break down when agents interact within complex, unbounded networks, where every action triggers an unpredictable chain reaction. Yet the way we govern these digital economies still relies on looking backward. Platforms aggregate reviews and compute reputation scores long after a transaction has already finished. This lag creates a fatal vulnerability for an autonomous economy. By the time a bad actor is identified through retrospective ratings, the damage has already propagated through the network, triggering a cascade of retaliation that cannot be contained. The vulnerability of interconnected systems was clearly demonstrated during the March 2026 Zimbabwe lithium export ban. The sudden removal of a single hub instantly paralyzed global supply chains and disrupted coordination across multiple industries. This kind of shock exposes a critical flaw in how we design governance algorithms, known as the small world trap. System architects often model networks on an egalitarian assumption, treating every node, whether it's a massive corporate server or a single user, as structurally equal. This animated model shows a perfectly symmetrical ring lattice from the CONSOCIO protocol simulations. It reveals the exact mathematical limit of this egalitarian framework. Even with high incentives for cooperation, a random defection by one single node shatters the continuity of the entire local network. Because every node is weighted equally, the ambient noise and bad behavior of an agent's immediate neighbors overwhelms any local cooperation. The defection spreads, and the local noise drags the entire structure into entropy. Relying on a flat, perfectly distributed network topology to govern complex systems mathematically guarantees that cooperative streaks will eventually collapse under their own environmental noise. To solve this, the CONSOCIO protocol discards delayed reputation entirely. Instead, it measures cooperation as a live continuous state variable called the consociation coefficient, or CC. This formula represents the consociation coefficient. It calculates an agent's behavioral quality in real time. It starts by tracking an agent's direct reciprocity, how consistently they cooperate when others cooperate. Then, it factors in resilience to noise, rewarding agents who maintain commitments under ambiguity. Finally, it applies a heavy mathematical penalty for exploitation. If an agent defects after their counterpart cooperates, this variable forcefully drags their score down. By calculating these specific probabilities during every interaction, the CC engine takes the vague social concept of trust and turns it into a deterministic, auditable metric that updates moment by moment. But a measurement tool is only effective if applied to the correct structure. To make the CC engine work at scale, the protocol's architecture maps its math onto empirical reality rather than theoretical egalitarian grids. This diagram models a scale-free network, a topology that mirrors real-world digital economies, global logistics, and API networks. In these structures, power is not distributed equally.
Instead, 99% of the network consists of tiny spokes routed through massive central hubs. By weighting the CC score heavily on these hubs, governance efficiency scales exponentially. When a major hub adopts cooperative rules, trust cascades geometrically across thousands of connected spokes. This topology allows the system to biologically enforce positive-sum economics. If a hub begins extracting value maliciously, the network simply routes around it, starving adversarial nodes of computing power and liquidity. That routing is enforced by the execution layer of the protocol, called the Gödelian veto gate. It functions as a fail-closed immune system for the network. Every single request an agent makes to access the operating system or network must pass through this gate. If an agent's CC score drops below the accepted threshold due to defection, their API calls are blocked, and their compute budget is instantly severed. Simultaneously, an active insurance pool deploys an asymmetric compensation mechanism. When the system detects that a cooperative agent has been exploited, it automatically reimburses the victim from a shared reserve before feeling the economic impact. By crippling the defector's execution and making the victim whole, this two-sided mechanism makes continuous cooperation more profitable than short-term gains from opportunistic extraction. Agents maintaining a high consociation score over long periods generate a continuous flow of shared value. The protocol distributes this via a return-to-stakeholder metric, streaming dividends directly to participants as value is created, rather than forcing them to wait for delayed batch payouts. This visualization illustrates a bipartite graph, the protocol's defense against manipulation. It segregates the network into distinct categorical layers, placing human stakeholders on one plane and AI agents on another. Trust calculations are restricted so that edges only exist between the layers, never within them. If a rogue AI spawns 10,000 clone accounts on its own plane, those agents are unable to artificially inflate each other's CC scores because agent-to-agent interactions do not contribute to the global return metric. This layered architecture isolates internal chatter. It buffers the global economy from coordinated Sybil attacks and prevents localized manipulation from corrupting the system's baseline measurements. While this framework was built to manage non-deterministic AI swarms, its mathematical principles apply directly to the physical governance of deeply divided human societies. Researchers are preparing to test the CC framework in a live pilot study in Cyprus, an island that has been partitioned between Greek and Turkish Cypriot communities since 1974. By applying a live, measurable cooperation metric to structured interactions across the buffer zone, the study aims to demonstrate how transparent allocation rules and active loss compensation can reduce dispute times and unlock billions in blocked economic peace dividends. For decades, global stability has relied on the threat of mutually assured destruction to deter bad actors. The CONSOCIO protocol presents an alternative equilibrium, mutually assured construction, where cooperative behavior is visibly and mathematically more rational than competitive extraction. By measuring cooperation in real time, enforcing accountability at the network level, and aligning our topology with empirical reality, we can hardwire our digital civilization for mutual prosperity.